Some viewers may find the following video disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Board Games Unlocked, and today I'm doing a discussion over Earthborne Rangers. Well, actually this is the second discussion. For campaign games, if you're not aware, I always have a preliminary discussion a few games in, just to kind of give a initial, opinion of the game. Just also to get a review out of what we're currently thinking. And then I do a secondary discussion either when the campaign is over or we decide to quit the campaign, and we kind of go over what our overall thoughts were of the campaign or why we ended up delaying it. Earthborne Rangers is slightly different in that the campaign I was doing by myself, and I recorded up to day 10, I think. But then what I initially was going to do is I was just going to kind of call it there because I wasn't really feeling it anymore. I was like, you know what, I'm not really into, the story. I wasn't really vibing with it. The gameplay kind of got a little stale for me, so I was like, okay, I might just quit doing the campaign, and I'll just do my discussion then and there. But something about this game had me want to kind of see it through to the end. So what I really did was I just kind of quit recording. And I wanted to finish the campaign to just see what the overall story and vibe was going to be like up until the very end, because they put a lot of effort into it. They really wanted to make the world of Earthborne Rangers feel alive and thriving, and a place that you can kind of get lost in. So I was like, you know what? I'll put in a little bit more effort. Now, with that being said, I will say that I still like the sheer nature of the game is very passive, very peaceful. There is conflict in this. There are stakes, I should say. Not necessarily conflict, because the game really doesn't want to have to, it's like you don't hurt anything. You cause stress, or, you scare things away if you're trying to deal with a predator, for example. So things like that. You don't kill it. You don't attack it. But you can deal with it instead of in a more aggressive manner. But the game is definitely focusing on a oneness with nature and the earth, and is, in a game like this, or in a genre like this, like campaign-style games, is very, very rarely done, if at all. So Earthborne Rangers is definitely unique in that sense, where it's like, it has a different take on the genre, and I really do appreciate that. So, there was something about, because at the time that I was stopping, at least recording, things for the story were starting to kick off. There might be some spoilers here, so I should warn. But they're starting to become kind of a big bad. And I was like, oh, okay, here we go. Now there's some reason to do what you're doing. Because Earthborne Rangers and another game that kind of wants to be similar to it, Mythwind, both felt like, well, why am I doing what I'm doing? If I'm going to sit down and play a game, and a storytelling game at that, there kind of has to be some drive. You don't play D&D just to kind of run an inn. You don't play a game to be an NPC. You play to be the main character. And so with Earthborne Rangers, that's kind of how the first 6-7 days kind of feels like, is that you're just going from town to town. It's like, I mean, this is nice, but I don't really want to finish 30 days of this, which to be fair, you actually don't have to finish 30 days. It's not like the game will play until you're at 30 days. It's not like 30 days is the finale. So you can't finish it earlier. It's just you have 30 days to kind of finish the main story. And so I was like, okay, well, let's just see what happens. And I gotta say, I'm actually pleasantly surprised with the overall narrative. I really did kind of like how it ended up proceeding. It's very slow. I should say that if you're going to get into this game, it does take a bit of effort, because every game, day, on average, and I was playing by myself, lasts about an hour. So if you're playing with more people, each day is going to take some time. One thing I'm not a huge fan of in games like this And I've quit other campaign games that do kind of the same thing. So you have this map. And the map also, you have the Valley Trail map, which is also really cool because it's kind of like a guide. Like if you were going to go to on like a hiking trail, it would tell you, hey, here's like, the best path to take. Hey, avoid this section. A lot of the missions kind of just have you walk back and forth. Literally, one mission is take you from Spire down to Tumbledown, and the next main mission basically has you go back. And I'm not a huge fan of that because of in board games, it takes a lot of effort to do so. You have to, every location you go to, you have to find the deck, and then you have to set up the path deck, and you have to shuffle, and you have to set that up. And if you don't really want to be in that location, you still have to put in effort to keep traveling. So then if you can easily travel, I mean, yeah, it takes you 2 cards, and boom, you're done, you're ready to travel. But then you have to put those cards away, and then you have to do kind of the whole thing 4 times in a row until you finally get where you need to be. It's like, I finally got to this location, and then now I have to find the person I need to talk to. Well, sometimes it's just like a journey, missions just get there. But then other times you have to find specific people. So you have to kind of waste time to search through the path deck until you find what you need. And that can get extremely tedious. But you are able to, in a game like this, kind of beeline the main story, which is different because a lot of games, yeah, it is main story stuff, but there's a lot of side quests and stuff. In this game, side quests come up if you happen to come across them. Like, they don't just give them to you. Like Madara, for example, it's like, hey, by the way, here's the main story if you want to do that, but then here's a bunch of these side missions that you can do. So they're all available for you to choose to do. And in this one, to get side missions, you have to, like, talk to people. And you have to, progress with them in a, put progress tokens on them to talk to them and then figure out what's going on. And then you have to choose to accept their side missions. But I will say, it does get very, very tedious when all you are wanting to do is just get from A to B. But to get from A to B, you have to go from A, then A, point B, A point C, A point D, A point. You have to go to 5 different locations before you can finally get to B. And it's like, I just want to get there. So I will say that Earthborne Rangers is not a game that I personally like to binge. It got very old. Because at the same time, you have your deck. So a lot of people compare this to Arkham Horror, the living card game, or Lord of the Rings, the living card game. And I definitely see that. If I'm not mistaken, I think the designers of the game worked on those. So I'd have to actually look it up, but that's what I've heard. It very much makes sense. The game does have a lot of similarities with those games, albeit with its own twist. But what I will say, one of my favorite things about the game is the fact that at the very beginning, you like the prologue, you kind of craft your character, like how you want them to be. You can have them be super talky and tech savvy. You can have them be a badass that's just like all about like physically built to just rough it through the terrain and beat the shit out of anything that gets in your way. You could go very passive, like my character was very connected with beings. So I had ways to do a lot of progression with creatures, but whenever I came across other things, I had difficulty with that. And that is really, really cool. Very few games kind of immediately accentuate your strengths and weaknesses, and that is very neat in a game like this where it makes thematic sense. It's like, hey, I'm really good at talking to people and dealing with animals in a very passive way. A lot of missions that I had to lure creatures, like they'd be like, hey, this massive cat is attacking, is prowling the banks, can you go deal with it? It's like, sure. And I would come lure it out and be like, hey, you're my friend now. And it was like super easy for me. But anytime I came across an obstacle, I'm like, oh boy, how do I get past this? Like, what do I need to do to get past it? Because I wasn't good at it. But the other side of that is you don't construct your deck all that much. There are ways for you to kind of like take cards out and put new cards in, but it's all starting cards. So it's still centered around who you are as a character. And there's not a whole lot of delineation from that. Like, you can't really be like, okay, I'm really bad at dealing with obstacles, I'm going to change that. It's like, well, not really, because the two things that you picked for your deck don't deal with those a whole lot. Now, you can get rewards. If you complete missions, you can get rewards for that. Like, for example, I got a gear that was called Artel's Vaulting Rod, and I got that for helping out a character. It was a side mission I didn't have to do, and this was, I got to play it, and it allowed me to exhaust an obstacle. Now, obstacles are cards that kind of prevent you from, traveling, because they were obstacles, they were in your way. But the Vaulting Rod was this massive, harpoon thing. I could have used it to fish and heal that way. But it's like, oh, hey, this obstacle's in my way. Just shoot this thing, and now automatically I'm climbing over it. Neat. That's amazing. So there are some ways to get them, but you can't necessarily build for that. If you're looking for a game that is really big on deck construction, I would look at... that's in the same vein. Arkham Horror, the card game, does this way better. Way, way better. There's way more options, which is not necessarily fair for this game. But there's a ton of content for that one, and... yeah, you're constantly getting extra XP to spend on putting cards in, taking cards out. You're doing that all the time. And here, you're not doing that. And the reason why I bring that up is that kind of is what made this game a little bit tedious. Not only the traveling around the valley, which, again, thematic, the game doesn't really give you ways for ease of travel. There are some, and I'll kind of get to that. But for the most part, you're walking. You're a ranger. That's what you do. You walk. From location to location. But the deck itself would kind of also become tedious. As I was playing more and more, I would essentially play the exact same cards to deal with the same cards over and over. And that's why I'm saying this game's not amazing to binge, because that really becomes apparent whenever you're playing a Lego. Wow, I'm playing the exact same cards to do the exact same thing, to deal with the exact same path deck. And all I'm trying to do is just get to this location to complete this mission. So while the gameplay does have a lot of combos, and you get to see the strength of your deck, it's really cool whenever it all comes to fruition of I'm going to play this card to activate this gear, to move this being around, to activate this, to put a shit ton of progress, and then boom, I'm gonna flip the challenge deck, I'm gonna play this card, so now in all this, I'm gonna put down 10 progress on this one being. Boom, it's dealt with. That is entirely possible, and that can feel really good when you're like, this is what my deck is. Yes, that's my engine. But when you're doing that every time, it's it kind of gets old when you don't really get to see newness of your deck. Kind of you don't get to see growth, really. And in a game that kind of wants to be about this, it feels like okay, I just walked across the whole valley. It took me, 3 days. Can I please, get something new? Now, again, that's not to say you don't get reward cards. There are a bunch of reward cards in the game. Not necessarily this big. These aren't all unique rewards. I have the card doubler, so take this deck and have it, pretty much. But that's still a decent amount of reward cards. And all the ones that I got, which was also really nice, my character was able to use. And that was really neat. I was really big on animals, so a lot of stuff got me animals. And one card that I ended up getting was Tala's Perseverance, which was add 3 progress to a trail. If it's a mountain or obstacle, increase the number of progress added by 2. Well, that's awesome, because I know exactly how I got this card, and it makes sense for the character to provide that to me. And now I'm able to deal with obstacles a little bit more, which is really cool. But though I'd have to do that mission, I had to come across that specifically at that specific time to get it done, so it wasn't guaranteed. So if you're wanting a game about constant deck construction and modification, it's not here. But at the same time, the silver lining could be, well, yeah, it's not quantity, it's quality. You are who you are, and now you can look back on that card that you got and thematically think of the aid you provided that person that got you that really badass card. Yeah, you're not getting 10 cards a session into your deck, but you got 3. But those 3 are really good, and you know exactly why you got those 3 instead of just being I don't remember how I got these. They're in my deck now. So I can see arguments for both sides. Personally, with how long kind of the campaign is, I'd like to see a little bit more deck construction. Going back to like traversal, yeah, there's no real way to move faster because you don't ever use your deck in the traveling step. You just have to look at what it connects to and then build the path. You can come across random NPCs that can give you a lift or random obstacles. I know in like the mountain deck there's like a zipline thing. It's like, oh, that's amazing. Like there's like a zipline system in the valley. That's really cool. That helps me get across. But you have to, one, be in the mountains to kind of allow for that. Two, you have to find it. And, well, that's pretty much it. Otherwise, you can't find it. There are NPCs, like I said, who can provide that, but you also have to randomly draw them. And randomly draw them in two ways. One, whenever you're going to non-pivotal locations that don't have, like, specific cards, you shuffle a separate deck and put in 3 cards into the path deck. And then you hope that that's one of the cards, and then you have to draw them before just deciding to travel on your own. So I'm not a huge fan of that. Probably my biggest gripe with this game is I really hate the path deck. Like, I get it. Like, it's to represent, like, okay, I'm in the woods, and that's what's in the woods. And inherently that's nice. It is thematic, like, of what is kind of, thematically in those, there's deer, there's bucks and does in the woods, okay? Well, in the ravines, there's bats and spiders. It's like, okay, yeah, they have their own economy, or ecology, not economy. And I like that, but it becomes very mechanical whenever you're dealing with the deck. I don't like having to top deck certain things whenever you're really needing to complete a mission and you have to find a specific card that's just shuffled. Like, so many missions will just say, grab these cards and shuffle them into the path deck. Okay, they could all be at the bottom of the deck. So, and if you don't really have ways to scout the deck, which means draw a lot of cards to see ahead. Like, I have a bird that lets me do that. But that's a challenge. And if the challenge doesn't go your way, you're drawing one card. You're like, okay, that's not it. Put it at the bottom. If you don't really have a lot of ways to do that, you're just top decking. And I really don't like that. Because so many times you're just like, I need to find this one guy. I'm at a pivotal location. I'm at White Sky. Like, where is he? And at the same time, some people might like that. They might like the fact that you can't find him because he's not a robot. He's not just standing there going, boy, I wish that person shows back up. I wish I could eat and sleep, but I have to find... Like, they're not just standing there. So thematically, yeah, it's meant to be that they're walking around the location. They're not at the tavern where you saw them last time. You just happen to stumble across them there, but now you have to find them, and then they show up. But narratively, that doesn't make any sense because they don't have that much depth. They don't talk about like where they're at and what they're doing. You just have to find them and then kind of be like, hey, by the way. So a lot of the theme, whenever it comes to specific cards you're looking for, you have to kind of put into yourself. But I really just don't like the path deck. It gets very, very tedious of having to set it up every time when you're just like, I just need to get to this location. I mean, I guess you could house rule it and just like not deal with the path deck. Like if you have to go from like the fractured wall all the way to whatever plummet, like you could just say you got to a location and then not set it up because you don't really care what's at that spot. But at the same time, I could argue that you don't ever really need to travel. Just say that you got there and then read what the mission does. So there, I wish there were some ways to kind of quick travel, like ways to just innately get, like guarantee you get the flying machine to be able to help you travel better. So that was mainly my biggest gripe. Now the overall campaign ended up kind of picking up in a really nice way. Like, I mentioned that this game doesn't really have a lot of conflict, but it ends up kind of getting some. I'm not going to go into too much spoilers, but if you're kind of like not really feeling at the beginning, the game does kind of get a little bit more interesting and gives you a little bit more agency on how you want to deal with the overall threat, which was cool. They like they kind of added some stakes that if you get invested in the world, you're like, yeah, I wanna deal with that. I wanna stop it. And then you go out and you do it, and they kind of give you a lot of ways, and not a lot, but they give you some ways to kind of deal with it. So it's not just go do this. You have some options on the way you want to take it. And then what was really nice is they have these notable events that they have you write down, and they never came back up. I was always like, when are these happening again? Well, what's kind of cool is all of the narrative prompts were basically missions. You come across someone that says, "Do you have this mission?" Yada yada yada. Go to this section in the Lore of the Valley book. And I was like, man, when is it going to ask about the notable events? Well, what it does, this is a slight spoiler, but nothing too specific, is it asks which ones you have at the end of the campaign. So whenever you do the final mission, it says read all applicable based off the notable events that you have. And I thought that was really nice. It kind of all came full circle. Some you get at the very beginning, and then you get a blurb. And if you like really invested yourself in the world, it's really touching. Honestly, I liked it. It was like it was just like, oh man, yeah, no, I did do a bunch to save this valley, and here are the people who recognized it, and the people who I've been interacting with this whole time to congratulate me or say something. And I thought that was really nice. One thing that this game does narratively that is really cool, and I do not see this in any other campaign game, and this is kind of a spoiler, so you finish the campaign, you finish the main story, and it was very, very nice. It was kind of like, this is the end of this campaign. Thank you so much for playing Earthborne Rangers. We love you. That was just so sweet. That's kind of like a thanks for playing our game and the credits of a video game you've really been invested in. And that, I don't know, that's always been touching to me, to be like, oh, yeah, you're welcome. I had a good time. Just shows how much care that they had with the game that they wanted to make. But when you finish the overall campaign, it's like you're done with the main campaign. However, there's a lot of secrets for you to find. And they give you one final mission, and it's called the Valley Secrets. And it says Mission Epilogue. I'm not going to read the flavor text, but it says when each of the following entries are written on your campaign tracker, you read a section. And there are 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 13. There are 13 things that you need to get written down as a notable event. And once you finish all those, you get the true ending. And no campaign game does a true ending. So this reminds me a little bit of a JRPG that I just finished recently, Sea of Stars, which is phenomenal. If you like JRPGs, or you like Chrono Trigger, or you like anything of that, highly recommend that game. That game is beautiful, and I absolutely loved it. And I actually 100%ed that game to get the true ending. And this game actually has that. It's basically like, it's kind of like Sea of Stars. You do a bunch of like things to help out the people, and then you get this really awesome reward at the end. And this game has that, and I think that is phenomenal. No campaign game I know has a true ending. Has a, hey, you beat the campaign, how about you 100% it? Like, and you get rewarded for it. Like, all of these, I have some of them that you cannot kind of like naturally do, but really what all these are surrounded or are doing the side quests for the characters. They're all about helping people in the valley, which is the ranger's job first and foremost. So if you do that with everything, which then you get the true ending. And I was just blown away whenever I found that out. Now, I haven't done this. Like, to be honest, I just read I spoiled it for myself. I read what the entry was. I got 3 of them out of the 13. And I know where some of them are. Like, but I think that's just so fucking cool. Like, it really is neat. Unless you don't like 100% in games. Like, some people may not like this, but I think if you really liked Earthborne Rangers, then, and you're done with the campaign before the expansions come out, you still have more game to play. Like, you could honestly just look up where you do these. Like, I mean, obviously for Sea of Stars, I didn't like know how to 100% it, so I looked it up. So you could do that here as well. You could figure out like, hey, where do I need to go to do this specific mission? Who do I need to talk to? Some you're going to just naturally come across. The few that I know but didn't do, I know what to do. Like, I know where I need to go to do that. But I think that that's just a really awesome way to kind of keep your game alive. Instead of just being like, just keep playing. It's like, play what? There's nothing to do. 13 is a lot. Like I said, I got 3 of them out of finishing the whole campaign. I know where a couple more are, but you'd have to go and be like, where could I possibly do this? Like, who can I go talk to? You have to search. I don't know. I really had to talk that one up because that is just amazing. Not more campaign games need to kind of have a way to 100% it in a narrative, rewarding way. Not just, hey, do everything. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. Like, this is the right way to do it, I think. So yeah, like, the game did kind of wear on me as I was playing. I mean, it caused me to not want to record anymore just because there would be a lot of sessions where I wasn't really doing a whole lot, where I'm just kind of doing the same thing. So it was easier for me to just kind of play on my own, listen to music, get invested, than trying to, be somewhat entertaining when there's nothing to be entertaining about when I'm just trying to travel. Because then it would just become more and more frustrating. So I enjoyed my time with Earthborne Rangers. I know at this time that they went back on GameFound for an expansion. I'm not getting it. I don't like this game enough to kind of want to jump back into it. I enjoyed my time with it. I think the game, it doesn't have legs for me. Like, I wouldn't want to come back and play this with a different character, but I will say that I do not think this game is that good solo. I think you could have a lot more fun with another player. Like, I'd say max 2, but honestly, like, play with 4, because there are 4 backgrounds and 4 specialties, and you could all divide and conquer. You could have one person be the shaper and traveler, one person be the explorer shepherd, one person be the conciliator forager, and one person be the artisan artificer. I mean, you can combine, mix and match any of that, but you can just hit all backgrounds, all aspects, and have a strength and weakness from everyone as a group of 4 rangers exploring the valley. And I think you could have a really good time. I think, honestly, my biggest drawback was that I played it by myself. I thought it was going to be easier, and it necessarily was. But, yeah, I think you would hit a lot more... you'd have a lot more synergies, a lot more... just something to share the world with, honestly. And that's this game's biggest strength, is its world. Like, this world of Earthborne Rangers is worth the read, I think. It's really... I mean, even the very beginning, where it talks about, like, creating Earthborne, where it, like, where they came from on how they, like, the game they wanted to make. Even that stuff is very fascinating. So, yeah, like, I don't think this game is a masterpiece. It's not my favorite campaign game I've ever played, but I will say that where I was at when I quit recording, I thought I was going to be done. I was like, okay, well, that's another campaign game I'm not going to finish. But I will say I was happy that I did finish it, to see the main story to its end. Pleasantly surprised and spoiled myself on the true ending, but that's just really cool as well. And this game is so accessible. Like, even though the insert is basically trash, like, it is very quick to set up, store, and pull out. So you play for a couple hours a week. I think you're going to have a really, really good time. So, on a scale of 1 to 10, I was originally at a 7 when I decided to stop recording. Like, I still liked the game, but I was kind of just tired of it. But as I finished it and read the story and kind of, like, reflected back on, like, the experiences that I had in the world that I was invested in, I think I'm going to bump it back up to an 8. I do think this is a good game. And and I think a lot of people will really like it. So kudos to the creators of this one. Very peaceful, very vibrant world. So yeah, that's my thoughts on Earthborne Rangers. Let me know what you think of the game in the comments below. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you. Hey everyone, thank you for watching, and I really hope that you enjoyed the video. If you would like to see more of my content, go ahead and click that subscribe button and the bell to be notified whenever I upload any new content. If you feel like supporting the channel, you can go ahead and click that Patreon link to be taken to my Patreon, and any help is truly appreciated. Other than that, stick around for any other run-throughs or reviews or cool top 10s or whatever I feel like putting on. Other than that, like, comment, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful whatever time of day it is for you.